Thanks for joining me here at NTD Business. I'm Don Ma. A couple of things to go through today. The Eurozone economy was in a technical recession in the first 3 months of 2023. The European Union Statistics Agency Thursday said the total GDP of the Eurozone fell at an annualized rate of 0.4% during the 3 months through March. Also declined in the final 3 months of last year. Now, that means the Eurozone saw 2 consecutive quarters of decline. This matches the definition of an economic recession. And here to talk to me is economics professor Christian Bjørnskov at Aarhus University in Denmark. So the recession in the Eurozone, how big of a deal is this? Maybe you can clarify the entirety of the situation.
It's not that big of a deal right now. First of all, in the last 3 months, the Eurozone GDP dropped by about 0.1%. We'd like it to grow more than 1%. Hasn't done so for quite a while, but it's a small drop. It's also noteworthy to emphasize that it's a Eurozone, so the core of the European Union. The countries outside of the common currency are not in a recession right now. So that's both good and bad, that parts of Europe are actually doing fairly well, but it's also a bit of a concern that it's the very core, including Germany, that's in recession.
Is this a serious situation within the Eurozone? You said not the entirety of the European Union is in recession, but how severe is the situation?
Well, it's severe in the sense that, first of all, it makes it very difficult for some European countries to actually just keep that debt under control. And in particular, French debts have been increasing dramatically for some years now. It's going to be even worse for them right now. And it's going to mean that some European countries are going to be downgraded by the international credit rating agencies. It's also quite concerning that a lot of the drop that we see right now in GDP in the Eurozone is due to private consumption.
So the living standards within the Eurozone and outside of it, because it is in a recession technically, is there much of a difference?
Well, the Eurozone includes some of the really poor countries in Europe. Countries outside of the Euro would be Switzerland, Denmark, Sweden, the United Kingdom, the Czech Republic, quite strong economies, whereas you have Greece, Portugal, and a few of the Eastern European countries within Eurozone, some of the poorest ones.
Okay, so let me ask you this. The Eurozone being in recession, do we know what exactly led to that? What's the contributing factor?
Well, inflation is a main contributing factor. So all of the Western world has had major inflation. Most countries are trying to do something about that, but the Eurozone is this very special situation where, on the one hand, you want to raise interest rates to get inflation under control. On the other hand, if you raise interest rates, you're going to make debt problems in France, Italy, Greece, and a number of other countries even worse. So the European Central Bank has had a very difficult time for years now, because on the one hand, they want to keep inflation low and avoid these kinds of recessions that we now see, and avoid that it becomes an actual economic crisis. On the other hand, they're trying to protect, in particular, France and Italy from having to pay high interest rates and therefore having exploding debt burdens.
Is this a shallow recession, a mild one?
Right now, it looks like a mild one. It's 0.1% in the first 3 months of 2023. But the drop in private consumption is almost 3 times larger. So it's not going to feel as if it's a mild recession.
I see. Is this going to have any impact outside of this euro area?
It will have impact outside the euro area, because in particular, if Germany and France, which are It's the largest and the third largest uh, economy in Europe. If they go into recession, it's going to have knock-on effect through exports in a lot of other European countries.
And I'm here in the U.S., of course. Is that going to have a domino effect if things get worse, or perhaps it won't? But will it affect the U.S.?
Every time Germany has economic problems, it does have some effect on parts of the US because Germany is a very large market for American firms. Um, right now, I don't think it's going to be a major influence. But if the crisis spreads to the rest of Europe, it will be a problem.
Thank you so much, Professor. Pleasure having you.
My pleasure.
And initial jobless claims in the U.S. last week jumped to the highest level since October 2021. The jump in claims could be a sign of more cracks forming in the labor market. Labor Department data today showed initial claims for state unemployment benefits increased 28,000 to a seasonally adjusted 261,000 for the week ended June 3rd. And despite the surge in applications, claims remain at levels consistent with a tight labor market. The government reported last week that the economy added 339,000 jobs in May, although the unemployment rate increased to a 7-month high of 3.7%. Though it still remains low by historical standards. Job growth is being driven by the services sector, including the leisure and hospitality category, which is still catching up after businesses struggled to find workers over the last 2 years. Industries like healthcare and education also experienced accelerated retirements during the COVID-19 pandemic. The jump in claims could be a sign of weakness in the labor market. The Institute for Supply Management reported on Monday that its index that measures the performance of the service sector dropped in May. GameStop sank nearly 20% on Thursday and was set for its worst session in 2 years after the surprise exit of a CEO handpicked to lead its online business. The ousting of former Amazon.com executive Matt Furlong came alongside top shareholder Ryan Cohen's appointment as the new executive chairman of a company that he turned into a favorite of meme stock traders, with a promise of a digital pivot. Yet GameStop was set to erase half of its gains for 2023 and about $1.6 billion in market value, based on pre-market share movements, with one analyst saying management change has been the only constant in recent years. GameStop had a massive pandemic-era rally that was driven by traders banding together on Reddit, prompted several brokerages to say the stock price had decoupled from its fundamentals. The company's shares have dropped nearly 80% from the $120 peak they hit during that meme stock saga of 2021. GameStop reported its fourth straight fall in quarterly revenue on Wednesday and a bigger than expected loss. Michael Patcher of Wedbush Securities says GameStop is doomed. The lack of a clear direction and the callous termination of Furlong all but ensures Cohen will have difficulty attracting a qualified replacement. And here to talk to me about GameStop is Mrs. Fed veteran in the gaming industry. Now, my question is, why are we still talking about GameStop? I know its stock plummeted. Why is it making news right now?
I think it's a nostalgia thing. I think that, the gaming industry is tied to the GameStop name. They were there in the beginning. They grew with gaming, and they are the Chuck Norris of the gaming industry. So, when you hear anything that's relevant to anything gaming, you go to GameStop first. If there's a new collector or, limited edition, you used to go to GameStop first. So I think that nostalgia has kept everybody holding on to it in the gaming industry, and we really, really root for GameStop. It is your forefront. They used to have Game Informer magazine, and then they used to have, midnight launches. They were the backbone to the gaming industry, and I feel like the gaming industry just kind of left without them. And because GameStop is spending so much and trying to do everything they can to stay relevant, everyone's rooting for them. So they will always stay relevant, because I think everybody in the gaming industry and the pop culture industry now really wants to see them push through and, make it back to the top and get up there with Amazon as far as like digital content.
So what's the sentiment right now with GameStop stock dropping?
I want to say partly predictable, and a lot of people are just rolling their eyes. because we knew it was coming, and a lot of people are, you know, wishing for the best and hoping that, you know, the next CEO that comes in is going to do exactly what the last one promised. I mean, we've gone through 5 CEOs in the last 5 years and 3 CFOs, and nobody is getting, you know, the sense that everything needs to be more convenienced, more at demand, and nobody wants tangible items. You know, they took over ThinkGeek and then turned all of their GameStops into these, you know, pop culture hot topics for gaming. And while that's phenomenal because you can get really cool things there, that's not what GameStop was. And they lost that ideology of, we come here for the best games, we come here for midnight launches, we come here to get these titles. So things like Steam and Blizzard and Battle.net and Amazon came in and swooped in and were like, you know what, we'll get you that game title right before it comes out, and you don't even have to leave your house. You're welcome. And then GameStop was like, crap, we don't have a structure for that yet.
So people rooting for GameStop, is it mainly because of the nostalgia factor?
I think so, yeah. I mean, me personally, I'm rooting for GameStop. You know, when I stepped into the gaming industry when I was 17, as, you know, somebody who can actually get a job, my first career was at GameStop. And, you know, I used to hold these massive midnight launches, and I would have, you know, I had the actual military come out from one of our bases for Call of Duty. I had mechanical bulls for Gears of War. I had food fights for Little Big Planet. Like, you would go above and beyond for these game releases. And, you know, it really sent the sentiment of, you know, gamers matter, and these games mean so much more to the players than just something to waste your time on. So my generation that grew up with those sentiments and those games, heck yeah, we are pushing for GameStop. We really want to see it succeed. I would rather give my money to GameStop and know that it's going towards something that, you know, built the, you know, mortar and brick of my gaming childhood than Walmart or Amazon or, you know, places that really don't hold any sentiment. So I think that the gaming industry is absolutely rooting for GameStop. I really, really hope that, you know, they can actually get their digital presence up as much as they have the tangible side of collectors.
Yeah, I understand the sentiment here. Let me pose this question. Do you feel there's any parallels here with Blockbuster?
Yeah, I think it really is the same thing. It's, you know, Netflix was the Blockbuster killer. And, well, I mean, Blockbuster came out before then. But, I mean, I feel like, you know, you have Netflix now, and you have that immediate sense of gratification. And I think Amazon is providing that for the gaming industry. And I think that Steam especially is providing that for the gaming industry. If I want a new game, I'm on Steam in seconds before I'm anywhere else. I will go to Steam or I will go to Battle.net way before I even check GameStop's website, because I don't want to have to go and drive and get a disc. So absolutely, I think that GameStop is in the same arena as Blockbuster. But I think that what Blockbuster lacked was the ability to enter into the digital arena because of, you know, their time frame. You know, this was the 90s. So GameStop still has the ability not to become, you know, the gaming Blockbuster, but they need a CEO that actually sees that. And I hope the next one they get does that.
I mean, its stock dropping, it's not necessarily a reflection of its business. It's partly just a vote of confidence. But I mean, some analysts are saying GameStop is doomed. What are your thoughts there? Is it?
There's a lot of analysts that are saying that, and I don't blame them for having that sentiment. I really don't, because if you look at, especially with the stock plummet that just happened, you have an entire board that is showing you they don't want to have any part of this anymore. Even their complete faith is gone. And, you know, it's because of the turnaround and all of the different CEOs and CFOs that are coming in. Nobody has a grasp on this, and they're seeing that. And I don't think that they're doomed. I think that if the board and their game plan stays the same and has the same mentality, it is doomed. But, you know, I really think that the right CEO can pull this through. I really, really do. But they have to get somebody that is younger, somebody that knows the demand of digital content, somebody that brings back 90s and 2000s GameStops where you had hype for new games, you had midnight launches, and you get people to go back into the store for something other than a collectible they can get on Amazon. Once they get that mentality back of bringing the gamers together socially, GameStop will kill it.
I mean, that's all it takes.
It really is. It really is simple. Like, we have things like huge conventions like Comic-Con, Long Beach Comic-Con, Dragon Con, and those were created to bring gamers and the pop culture together, right? There's thousands of us that go to these things. There's cosplayers and everything like that. If GameStop can tap back into that and bring those people together again for a game title, they can absolutely sell tangible content again and actual physical copies again, because they will have the motivation to get people to go back there. And I think that's really where they need to focus. Digital, yes, but like connecting gamers just as much so.
Well, all right. Thank you so much today, Mrs. Fett. Pleasure speaking to you.
It's an absolute pleasure. Till next time.